So I'm working on this 1978 GS750 Cafe Racer build. In the last video, I made a whole seat for it. In this video, I'm working on lighting. So headlight and tail light. I've got a few here. We picked up this headlight a while ago from purpose-built Moto. Kind of a cool, just Cafe Racer, nice headlight. So we're gonna mount that to the forks up here. Cal's gonna be working on basically 3D printing some mounts and making something for that. And then got these signal lights as well. These are from purpose-built Moto as well, so these are going to be integrated into the headlight mount. And then on the back, I've got this tail light. So I actually found this on eBay. It was the nicest one that I could find, where the whole thing lights up red, and then it has the integrated brake light and turn signals. So I'm going to flush mount this into the rear here of my subframe, similar to what I did on my SV650, especially on the first subframe. But these have rounded edges, so I need to make a whole, basically housing that goes inside of here that has rounded edges on it, that will hold this and then weld it into the subframe. So I already started on this actually a little while ago, so I'm gonna first start to cutting to footage of me making this part. And then, yeah, Cal's gonna be working on the headlight, and my next step will be putting basically the housing into this subframe. So just gonna jump right into it.
Where do you get this volume? You don't blow yourself up, you shouldn't.
All right, so here's what I've got now. This kind of ugly looking piece of metal that's all bent up, but it has round edges, which is basically like the big thing that I need. And then I've got this piece, which is the backing for my tail light, and then I've got the tail light. So this tail light's gonna sit on this piece. This is all gonna sit inside of here. So what I need to do is basically trace lines for this. I'm gonna do it like about 1 inch wide, and then cut away all the extra material that I don't need. The tail light will then sit inside of there, and then all of that will get welded inside of the rear of that bike. If it doesn't make sense, it'll make sense in a second. I'll just cut all this out and then I'll show you. All right, so this should make more sense. Obviously, I've still got to clean this up and trim it, but I've welded this together a little bit, and now I've got this piece, which will be the outside, and this piece, which will be the inside. So this will go inside of there and create a backing where I can now put the tail light in. And then this is gonna get welded inside of there and then trimmed nice and flush. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep working on this, basically welding all of this together, and then I'll put it inside of there, and I'll have to do some cutouts of this tube and weld it into there. So I had this thing tacked in here, and then I remembered something where I screwed this up last time on my SV650, and I had to redo it. So I made this piece to match the back of that hoop there, and there's a problem there because then when you move it in and I recess it, then the circle needs to be smaller the farther in that you go, and if I don't go tighter, then it's going to be sticking out on each side a little bit like that. So I actually need to make sure that I bend this thing a little bit tighter to kind of fit an inner radius on that tube. And then when the taillight's on top of it, then the taillight will sit flush out here. So I'm going to bend this in a little bit, and then I'm going to weld it on finally to this piece. All right, so here is my housing here that I can weld in to this subframe. So what I need to do next is I need to basically drill 2 holes on either end and then cut out the shape that I need this to go in. And then I'm gonna weld it into there where it sits flush with the taillight, the taillight sitting flush right with the edge of the subframe. And then I'm gonna grind off everything from the edge that I don't need. Also gonna weld up this little piece here. So yeah, next step is to cut and drill this into the subframe.
Like that. And then, yeah, and then I'll just have bolts back here. Yeah, those 4 circles.
Oh, you're left. All right, so have a look at this. This is what Cal made. So he 3D printed these clamps to go around the forks. It's kind of cool the way it all comes together. So this one on the inside, he slotted this so that a nut just like drops in there and then is held in there. And then what we did as well was to cut these out of aluminum just on a plasma table, and then they will be sandwiched by this. So this will go together and it'll hold this. So he's gonna install this now on the forks. And we'll get that headlight on there and see how it looks on the bike. All right, so have a look at this. We got the headlight mounted on here with these signals. This looks awesome. I think that looks so sick. This headlight actually really suits the build really nice, good size. And with that mounting, it kind of tucks in there really nice, and it's nice to be able to integrate the turn signals in there. These will probably end up getting painted black to match. And yeah, that worked out really well. And then in the back here, I've got my hole cut out here. Took a while to kind of shape it all how I wanted, but now I can get this guy in there. I cut some more slits in it just so I could kind of like fine tune how the bend was. But that just gets right in there. So next step here is to weld all of that in, and then I've got a hole drilled in there as well, so I can put my whole tail light through there, and that will be able to go through, and I can wire it up on the other end. So yeah, coming together. Next step, do some welding. So apparently there's a trick. I haven't tried this before, but if you take a piece of copper, which I picked up, and you put it behind the piece of metal that you're trying to weld, it won't stick to the copper, but it will fill that gap. So I'm going to try to hold this here, weld that up, and then grind it down so that it's smooth, and it'll be just how I need it, and then I can weld it into the back of the subframe. How good this works. All right, so here we go. I got this whole thing welded up and then I sanded it down. I still have obviously some fine tuning to do and make that nice and smooth, but this taillight fits super nice and flush in there. I made it kind of stick out a little bit just to accentuate the light, and it kind of makes it look even brighter. This is gonna look so nuts with that fat rear tire and then just like a tail light right in there. Yeah, it's gonna be really cool and came out really good, nice and flush. So yeah, I'm very happy with this. I'm not gonna stick it in there yet because I still have lots of work to do, and I'll probably put it in once this is all done painting. But I wanna wire this up really quick and see kind of like what that looks like lit up. And I wanna wire up this headlight. It's looking so good, and I wanna see what this bike looks like lit up. So check this out, we got the bike lit up. It looks amazing. I'm really excited with how this headlight turned out. It looks really good on the bike. And then this tail light just sets it off. Flush mounted tail lights just look so good. And with that kind of fat rear tire, oh, that looks sick. It's so cool, all these final details. You know, in the last video, being able to ride it, and now with this one, seeing it lit up, it's like the bike is coming together, and this is the stages of the build we're in, which is very exciting. So yeah, I hope you're liking how this is all going. I have to say a thank you to Brickhouse Builds for his video on how to do this with the round edges especially. He made it look really easy, but I was somehow able to figure out, and yeah, looks really good. So hope everyone's enjoying the build of this bike. Probably going forward from here, I'm gonna be working on like rear sets, a new top triple, bunch of smaller details, and then once it's all good, we'll do like a final strip down, weld up, powder coat, paint, everything to finish off this bike. So Yeah, that's one more video down and the lighting turned out great.